On a frozen morning, January 24, 1945, near Heusen, France, First Lieutenant Garlin Merl Connor pressed a cold telephone receiver to his ear, whispering coordinates as his breath formed clouds in the sub-zero air. The ground trembled from American artillery fire he was directing onto his own position. Years later, a letter he wrote described it simply. He knew what had to be done. The men behind him had families waiting, and if the German tanks broke through, none would make it home. Through the morning mist, Connor saw 6 massive German Tiger tanks, each 54 tons with an 88 mm of cannon, rolling toward the shallow irrigation ditch where he lay. Behind them marched 600 battle-hardened German infantrymen, veterans of the Eastern Front, moving with confidence. Connor, a Kentucky farmer's son with an 8th grade education, was about to make a decision that would echo through military history. 400 yards back, the exhausted men of the 3rd Battalion, 7th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division, held defensive positions, unaware their survival hinged on one man's courage. Armed only with a telephone and artillery coordinates, Connor would stop an armored column, defying every tactical doctrine. Born June 2, 1919. On Indian Creek in Clinton County, Kentucky, Connor was the 3rd of 11 children in a family scraping by on a subsistence farm in the Appalachian foothills. Called Merl by his parents, he grew up far from the frozen fields of France. The nearest high school was 15 miles away, over rough roads, too far for a boy needed on the farm, so his formal education ended at 8th grade. But the land taught him patience, endurance, and a keen sense of terrain, skills that would prove vital in war. He worked alongside his father and brothers, clearing timber, planting tobacco, and raising livestock on unforgiving soil. The Great Depression only deepened their hardship. As a young man, Connor joined the Civilian Conservation Corps, learning discipline and teamwork, skills that carried into his military service. On March 1, 1941, 9 months before Pearl Harbor, 21-year-old Connor enlisted in the U.S. Army in Louisville, Kentucky. Standing 5'9" and weighing 145 pounds, he was quiet but resolute. Assigned to Company K, 3rd Battalion, 7th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division, he trained at Fort Lewis, Washington, doing whatever was asked without complaint. On October 23, 1942, his division sailed from Norfolk, Virginia, for Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of French North Africa. Landing at Fadala, Morocco, on November 8, Connor faced combat for the first time. The North African campaign was brutal. 120-degree days, freezing nights, scarce water, and rampant disease. Connor stayed calm under fire, a quality that set him apart. His division fought across North Africa until May 1943, and in October, he earned his first Silver Star for leading a reconnaissance patrol against overwhelming odds, using his Kentucky honed terrain sense to outmaneuver the enemy. In July 1943, Connor's division invaded Sicily, fighting house to house through fortified towns. He earned the respect of his men, who saw his courage firsthand. The Italian campaign followed, starting with the September 9, 1943, landing at Salerno, where German counterattacks nearly drove the Allies back to the sea. Connor fought for 72 hours straight, leading counterattacks and saving wounded men, earning his second Silver Star. In January 1944, at Anzio, he earned a third Silver Star for leading an assault under heavy mortar fire. Wounded by shell fragments on January 30, he refused evacuation and received his first Purple Heart. By summer 1944, after 18 months of continuous combat, he was promoted to technical sergeant. Wounded again in August and September, he still refused to leave the fight. In August 1944, the 3rd Infantry Division landed in southern France for Operation Dragoon, pushing north through the Rotherny Valley. Connor's commander, Major Lloyd Ramsey, recognized his exceptional leadership and recommended him for a battlefield commission. On September 11, 1944, Connor became a second lieutenant, earning his fourth Silver Star that day for leading an assault over 300 yards of fire swept ground. By late November, his division reached Strasbourg, the first Allied unit to the Rhine River. Their next task was to help clear the Colmar pocket, a German-held salient west of the Rhine, centered on Colmar. The winter of 1944-1945 was brutally cold, with temperatures dropping to 20 degrees C and snow piling 3 feet deep. Connor, now the battalion intelligence officer, excelled at observing enemy positions, often taking risks others avoided. On January 20, 1945, the offensive to clear the Colmar pocket began. Connor's battalion advanced slowly through German resistance and freezing conditions, reaching positions near Heusen by January 23. Intelligence suggested the Germans were retreating, but at 8:00 a.m. on January 24, 6 Tiger tanks and 600 infantrymen emerged from the woods, their cannons firing. Major Ramsay knew the American positions couldn't hold without artillery, which required a forward observer. Connor volunteered, grabbing a telephone, radio, and wire spool, and ran toward the enemy with Private Robert Doodle. Under heavy German artillery fire, they zigzagged forward, unreeling wire to maintain communication. Doodle fell back after 200 yards, leaving Connor alone. Eyewitnesses saw him stagger through exploding trees, but keep moving. He reached a shallow irrigation ditch 30 yards, past the American line, barely 18 inches deep, and set up his telephone. For 3 hours, Connor directed artillery fire with icy precision, adjusting 105 mm and 155 mm howitzer salvos onto the German advance. Shells devastated the infantry and slowed the tanks, which couldn't advance through the barrage. A German soldier came within 5 yards of Connor before being shot. Tank fire and machine guns targeted his ditch, but he pressed into the frozen earth, unscathed. When the Germans launched a final all-out assault, Ramsay ordered Connor to withdraw. He refused, calmly requesting, "Blanket my position." Ramsay, knowing this meant certain death, gave the order. A massive artillery barrage centered on Connor's ditch, shells landing within yards of him. The ground shook, smoke and snow blinded the field, and the German attack collapsed. The tanks withdrew, and the surviving infantry retreated, leaving roughly 50 dead and 100 wounded. When the smoke cleared, American soldiers found Connor alive in the ditch, battered but functional, his uniform torn by shrapnel. He was deafened, shaking, and shocked, but had held the line. The German assault was shattered, and the 3rd Battalion was saved. Ramsay recommended Connor for the Medal of Honor, but it was downgraded to a Distinguished Service Cross, presented on February 10, 1945, by Lieutenant General Alexander Patch. On February 3, Connor earned a 5th Silver Star leading a disorganized company in a 200-yard assault, killing 12 Germans and capturing 75. By March 1945, after 28 months of combat, 4 amphibious landings, and at least 3 wounds, Connor was sent home, discharged on June 27, 1945. Back in Clinton County, Kentucky, a celebration welcomed him, attended by World War I hero Alvin York. Their 15-year-old Pauline Wells saw the unassuming hero and doubted his feats. After a week-long courtship, they married on July 9, 1945. They settled on a farm without electricity or water, later moving to a 36-acre farm in Roland. Connor rarely spoke of the war, avoiding war movies and fireworks, retreating into silence when asked about his service. He walked with a limp, suffered hearing loss, and bore the unseen scars of what we now call PTSD. He threw himself into community life, leading the Clinton County Farm Bureau and helping veterans navigate benefits. Connor died on November 5, 1998, at 79, from kidney failure and diabetes. In 1996, former Green Beret Richard Chilton, researching a relative in Connor's unit, found records in a duffel bag that detailed Connor's heroism. With Connor's cousin Luther, and neighbor Walton Haddix. Chilton campaigned to upgrade his Distinguished Service Cross to a Medal of Honor. Despite rejections in 1997 and 2000, and a 2014 court ruling, new evidence found in 2015 shifted the tide. In 2017, the Army approved the upgrade, and the 2018 National Defense Authorization Act waived the time limit. On June 26, 2018, President Donald Trump presented the Medal of Honor to Pauline Connor, then 89, in the White House, with family, Chilton, and Kentucky officials present. The medal now resides in the Kentucky Military History Museum. Connor's story is one of ordinary valor. A farmer's son with minimal education, he used his rural instincts to outwit a superior force, saving his battalion by calling artillery on himself. His choice reflects a warrior's ethos, sacrificing self for others. The Colmar Pocket Campaign, costing 15,000 Allied casualties, succeeded partly because of him, hastening the war's end. His delayed recognition highlights flaws in military awards, raising questions about unacknowledged heroes. Connor's silence about his deeds reflects a generation's humility. But his story, preserved through his family's persistence, shows what one person can achieve against impossible odds. His legacy lives in the families of those he saved, a ripple of courage across generations.